your colors and details, and make sure the lighting is sky compliance, and that's all you have. All you have to do. Okay.
It's going to be a few more sheets down. Right, oh, right there. Next one, the white fixture, I think, is maybe on the next sheet. In 817, right there. And then you guys had asked us about the dark sky ordinance, adding some text to that. So I got that from Henry, the planner, but it was a lot of it was about commercial stuff. So I just
That fixture is good
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. Okay. So that's the only exterior fixture that you have, right?
Yes.
That type. Okay.
Yeah.
And the materials and the colors and all that.
So I'm not sure where they're at in the order, but we did send that into Henry as well. There you go.
Yep, perfect. Okay, and about details. Do you have any architectural details like doors, windows, eaves, that kind of a thing?
The details are going to be further down in the set.
There. Yep.
Doors details, window details there, and then I think probably on the next sheet should be the eaves. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So the eaves, the eaves have a wood finish on the bottom of them, and then a wood fascia to match the existing house. Yeah, it's number 5.
Okay, very good.
So that's all to match the existing house.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, they're good to go. Very good.
That's it. What? Thanks so much.
That was easy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Alex. Thank you.
Is that it for the consent? Yes. Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
Good morning. Just as an announcement, we'll be starting in about 5-10 minutes. Thank you.
Well, it's about time. I was late too.
You ready?
It's kind of weird. These two look really sad.
Yeah. Okay, welcome everyone. We're gonna now convene the SBAR meeting of June 2nd, 2023, beginning with item number 1, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on an item that's not on the agenda for today? If so, please step forward or raise your hand if you're online. Okay, see no one. Item 2, agenda status report.
Good morning, Chair. We have one item for continuance. It is 23 BAR 53, item number. Sorry, 1 second.
4.
Item number 4. Would like to be continued to the July 7th hearing, and I believe we'll need a motion for that.
Would you mind?
I make the motion to continue item number 4 to the July 7th meeting.
All those in
Second by
favor?
Valerie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, item 3, the minutes from May 19th. John?
So on comment 4, on number 4, I think, yeah, we can move on. Anything the same thing there. On item number 4,
Let's go through the others real quick.
yeah, sure. Yeah, it's enough. Right?
Okay. Okay.
I just think comment number C, I mean, C, it's study opportunities to better coordinate.
Okay.
I would just say coordinate windows on dining room elevation.
Okay.
Yes, right, something a little bit simpler. Yeah, okay.
Next.
Yeah.
I don't really.
This is something else, okay.
Okay, so for A. That's not quite didn't quite get it all there, I think. Study all understory plans to ensure they're. I would say just add,
Verify. Well, verify. Understory plan is doable.
ensure all understory plannings, are durable, long lasting, and can hold up to foot traffic. There were just a few that were 2-year plans. Long lived, maybe instead of long lasting. Okay, next, anything else for this kind of important one?
Okay, how about D? Is it clear that we're saying that? I mean, like, you're going to look at it after the comes out in the department. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one thing that we did say regarding D was that study opportunities to offset a need for bio with permeable pavers or concrete, especially at the restroom facility. We added,
Where possible, comma, especially near the Western facility.
got that, Joe?
No, Mr. Chair, I think I missed that. And I was having a hard time hearing item A as well.
Okay. So ensure all understory plantings are durable, long-lived, and can hold up to foot traffic. And then for D, just added after where possible, especially near restroom facility.
And
Okay, great.
And E is about it's mostly about the palm trees, right? Yeah, it's not sure.
Yeah.
For I would say study opportunity for a second palm tree and finger planters where possible. Because they haven't had one per plant, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but 3 would be better too.
Okay.
So I think study opportunities for multiple trees. Yeah, and in parentheses, especially palms and planters. Where possible.
Okay, great. Got that.
To maximize vegetation across it.
Yes, and then the rest of it stays. We didn't see that. Did we? That was continued.
So it shouldn't say project received review only. It should say previous. It should say
Yeah,
something.
it should say something at the beginning, Joe. If you go back up to 6 real quick, just maybe add a new item A, project not heard. So comments are from previous meeting from 4/21. Something like that. Okay.
So the project was not heard. And
No. But so the comments will go, are from the previous meeting.
okay, so these comments are from a previous meeting. Okay. Okay, got it.
Okay. Keep going. Yeah. Sufficient. Okay, great. Someone want to expand on A?
Yeah, it appears that the scope of the project will necessitate the full demolition of existing structure. Right. Remember that one? Yeah, I think that's what we meant, because they were thinking about, well, we're going to change lift the roof and do this and do the other thing. So did you get that, Joe? It appears that the scope of the project will require the demolition and rebuild of the whole structure, or most of it, or most of the existing structure. How about that?
Is there so after that? So consider
Uh,
recategorizing the project and
no,
just an awareness thing.
yes, because I don't want to be in the record on that. It seemed that the designer was not really fully aware of what, the extent that we were getting into. And maybe the budget will change the compression completely. So
Okay.
I think it needs to be said somewhere in there.
Okay.
So it sounds like the only change so far is to A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh. Provide building cross sections,
And site.
building and site cross sections.
I think there's,
No.
yeah, there's one extra under there.
Item G could just remove need to.
Okay, got that.
And then for E, consider relocating fire pit and picnic area near pool. Okay,
Is that a new item E? I don't see an existing item E. Oh, I see. Sorry, I missed that.
yeah. So you got the language though, Joe?
Yeah, so we're removing relocating. Just say consider fire pit and picnic area
Okay, number whatever,
near pool.
9. Okay, 10. 11. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
I'm abstaining.
Right. Moving on then to item 4, SBAR members informational briefings. Okay, hearing none. Move on to staff update, item 5.
Yeah, I have to leave at noon. That's my update.
Okay, Val leaves at noon. Unless we don't let her. Okay, staff update.
All right, good morning, Chair and members. So I just had a brief update I was going to share. So planning and development, you may notice we're going to be rolling out an upgrade to our online permitting system starting July 5th. So you're going to start to see some communications from the department on this, but essentially we're going to be beginning online permitting. So you can applicants and agents can begin uploading all of their application materials directly to the department through our Acela online portal. So that's again starting on July 5th. So the website will require that applicants register, and that process is available now. So folks can go in and begin registering for an account now. And so we're recommending that folks do so. So if there are any questions or comments as you do, there's not a big rush once it all starts on July 5th.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. Moving on then to item number 6, the update on the Santa Barbara Airport Terminal Improvement Project. This is expected to take approximately 30 minutes. So your names for the record, please.
Yes, thanks. My name is Jessica Metzger. I'm a project planner with Santa Barbara Airport and the city of Santa Barbara.
Good morning, Sarah Isa, Capital Development Manager, Santa Barbara.
10 minutes. When you do that.
All right, thank you very much, board members and Mr. Martin. I just want to start with saying that we're really excited to be here today to show you the Terminal Improvement Project preferred concept and have your review of it. So besides Ms. Isa and I on the airport team to develop what we'll be showing you today was our director, Chris Hastrix, and our supervising engineer, Brad Klingsling. Additionally, what you'll see today has also been vetted through many of our other divisions at the airport, including operations, facilities and maintenance, and patrol. We also had an airport consultant renowned for their work in the US called Corrigan, who helped us with the design, as well as a local architectural team to give us the expertise in Santa Barbara, who was 19.6. In November of 2022, we came before your board and asked for a volunteer to serve on a design work group. And Mr. Peugeot was nice enough to volunteer for that. And I'd just like to recognize and thank him for that. And we held about 4 meetings with this design work group, including people also from our airport commission, the Architectural Board of Review at the city, and the Historic Landmark Commission at the city, as well as the design board for the LIDA. And then we also requested a member of the local AIA chapter be part of that as well. So our agenda for today is to go over an overview of the project, provide you with some background, and then we'll show you the plans and the elevations, and then go over our schedule and next steps, and take any questions or comments that you may have. So the purpose of the presentation is really just to get the word out with your board and everyone you know in the community that this project has started and is happening. And we're hoping that you can help us further draw more attention to it with the community of the South Coast as a whole, so we get really good input on the project. So to give you a little overview of the Santa Barbara Airport, we are the largest airport serving the Central Coast. We're a small hub airport, primarily for commercial service. We have over 1 million passengers a year, 3 runways. We also serve for general aviation, and that is the 2 different organizations that serve the private jet population. We also have flight training and maintenance at our airport, as well as deliveries like FedEx and UPS. The background on the project itself is that the Terminal Improvement Project came from our 2017 master plan. And master plan documents for airports are a little different than what they are for cities and counties. They look at a 20-year horizon, but are adjusted every 5 years roughly to changing conditions, both in airport industry as well as the region. So our Terminal Improvement Project came from that master plan in 2017, which is actually being updated right now as well in a separate project with the airport. As part of that airport, we do a forecast of how many new passengers we may have at the airport. And we just finished that forecast and it was approved by the FAA. And our growth for the next 20 years is roughly going to be 5% each year. So when we went out for our RFP to get a consultant to help us with our terminal improvement project, we had certain design elements that we had identified as important in this new project, including 2 additional gates and hold room space. And just for your information, hold room space is airport terminology for where you wait for your plane past TSA at the gate. We also wanted to look at more concession space, including food, beverage, and retail. And we had identified in our discussions with the community of the South Coast that our baggage claim area and our ticketing area also needed improvement. I'm not sure how often you all fly out of SBA, but the baggage claim gets pretty crowded when we have 2 planes that have just come in at the same time. And then additionally, we needed more space for TSA. So the picture that you see on the screen here is actually something that happens quite often at the airport. We're having to queue TSA on the 1st floor because the lines upstairs are full. And this creates quite a problem for us because then we need additional staff to take people to the escalators and tell them when to go up, taking them away from other duties at the airport. So now I'll just walk you through the site plan itself. And I think I can do it with the mouse on the screen. You give me a moment. I'd like to use this one if that's okay, so then people at home can see it too. So just to orientate you to the airport itself, this is the front door here. And you walk into the front door and you have ticketing on this side to the right here, and then baggage to the left here. And then if you continue straight on, you have our outdoor patio with the kinetic toy that was created back in the old terminal and it has been moved over to the new outside area here. So all of the new areas with our improvement project are to the south of this line here in the darker colors. And then etched in red hatch on the other side are additions to our existing terminal. Here and here. So you'll see that in the new area of the terminal here, we have additional baggage claim area in the green. And we have additional hold room or that waiting area in the bluish teal. And then additions to the bathroom facilities in pink. And we're moving the car kiosks from their current location to the new improved area here. And so this is level 2. Once again, the new improvements are to the south of the blue line here. So all of the orange that you see is new TSA area that will help both with queuing and with their back office activities that they have. Once again, new bathrooms in the pinkish color here. And in the teal here, we have additional hold room and the gray additional loading for the gates. And then one of the other things that was proposed in this improvement is additional concession space that will actually pop out over our existing 1st floor patio. So that's the purple area here. It's all new concession. And then additional space for a pet relief area and also a lactation room here. And then next to the new concessions will be a new kitchen as well. And then if any of you fly out on United, we're also going to have an additional space at gate 5 at the mountain side of the terminal or the north side. So just looking at it from the Google Earth perspective, all of the blue area is new improvements to our existing terminal. Now getting into the meat of what we want to show you. This is our existing terminal as you see it today on the bottom of the slide. And then the top is the approved elevation that was done in 2007. And then completed, this terminal was completed in 2011. And so you'll notice some standard features of Santa Barbara's El Pueblo Viejo district in this building, including the red tile roof and the Santa Barbara sandstone, and then the tower element next to the entrance with the copper top. And one of the things that was contemplated in the design of the existing terminal is this parabolic arch entryway, which is reminiscent of an airplane nose. And so finalizing those Spanish colonial revival style elements are the lemon trees potted, bringing you up to that main entrance. And so this is our preferred conceptual design that we're presenting to you today. We went through this with our design work group and with Mr. Peugeot, we had probably about 5 or 6 different concepts that our consultants came up with. And our work group kind of picked and chose their favorite parts of those concepts to put together what we have before you today. So this is at 10% design currently. And one of the important things that the work group had in mind with this design that you see before you is really keeping the new elements of the building simple and not detracting from that focal point of the parabolic arch and the main entry. So not having multiple entries that people come in, just kind of funneling them to that beginning spot. And so the front of the terminal is the top of the elevation on the screen there. And then if you're coming in on the air side, that's the middle. And then we have both the new elements at the northern elevation and the southern elevation. And now we'll just focus in a little bit on some of those parts. So the top of the slide are the elements that are being added to the existing building, so they're not new. So we have a pop out for baggage claim where we're pulling the building out, and also one for the check-in area. And then looking more towards the south of the building, you can see that the rental car kiosks will move down to the south, like I showed on the site plan. And we've created additional large windows in the baggage claim area to further bring in that light and air that's missing currently in the terminal. And then now just looking at that southern expansion, the TSA offices will also have larger windows than they currently have to give them more light and air. And the exit to the rental cars will shift with the kiosks to the edge of the building there. And then on the second floor, we'll have another large window for the hold room, so you can get those views out the window. One of the things that the design group struggled with a little bit was why this area was kind of so blank. And so we put kind of these elements of a trellis up there. And we can't really have windows because a lot of mechanical equipment is in that area there. So I just want to point that out. And then moving to the air side of the building. So you have the additional hold room to the north of the building, and then that concession space that's popping out over the patio. And then the building to the south shows the areas where we have larger windows for the hold room here on this end. And then a lot of the mechanical equipment for the airside operations is stored in this area here. The tugs that you see, other garbage and whatnot, and then additional hold room space here. Another one of the issues that we had with the working group was going back and forth on the size of these windows here. And our consultants felt that having larger windows there would kind of detract from the better views that you have at the end of the hold room because of all the mechanical equipment that comes in and out of that area. And then just giving you a focus onto that concessions space. So this is pulling out over the downstairs patio, but not completely, still leaving some downstairs space. So you can go out and look for grandma and grandpa coming off the plane when you're picking them up. And the restaurant itself will hold about 50 to 60 people, which for us at the airport is another win because that takes that amount of people out of the hold room. So it actually shifts to give us even more room than what we have. It will have a glass element like it does now on the first floor, around the second floor as well. And it was just something that we've heard from the community that outdoor spaces are appreciated after TSA. And it's one of the trends in the industry to have these. One of LAX's new lounges has a large outdoor space. And so something that we'd like to look further into when we continue with our design. And so we are in the 10% conceptual design right now with our project schedule. And our next step is to go to our architectural board of review at the city for an official concept review. And then at the same time, we'll also be going to the City Planning Commission for our coastal development permits. And then once that is complete, we go to the City Council to get the design contract for the 30% design approved with Oregon and 19.6. And we'll also be giving this presentation again as well. And also on this slide in our conceptual design, we're coming and speaking to all of those boards and commissions that gave us volunteers for the work group and gathering your comments and giving you this presentation. Additionally, we will have an open house at the airport across the street at Direct Relief in their conference room on July 18th. And so we hope to get a lot of comments there as well. And that'll be more of an interactive open house where people can talk one-on-one with staff at the airport. And so once again, our purpose today is just to get the word out and hear your general comments. We can take questions about our terminal design and the site layout. And also, please go and sign up for our interested parties list on our website. It is flysba.com/TIP for Terminal Improvement Project. And then you'll get updates on all of the process that happens with this up to 2027 when it hopefully will be complete. And with that, I thank you very much. And Ms. Isa and I will be happy to help with any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Everyone, while we're on this slide, there was a sculpture slated for this location on the top of that hill 10 years ago, probably. Do you know whatever happened with that? I think there's a kinetic plane sculpture of some sort.
Thank you. Are you referring to the kinetic airplane? If there is the kinetic airplane on that hill existing today.
Oh, maybe it was something else then. There was, I don't know, I think it was one that was on the ABR. And there was some other sculpture thing happening there, which I never saw take place.
There was another proposed sculpture called Wings of Freedom, which never was built due to lack of funding.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Anyone have questions or statements?
No, I have a question. I was surprised about the scale of growth, 4.8% per year. And if my math is good, it's like the rule of 72. You divide that by 72. That means every 15 years it doubles in size. That was what 4.8% means, right? I mean, it's just a tremendous rate of growth. Just
Surely, it's a robust rate of growth. Yes, that's true. And it's consistent among the region and the state and the nation.
No, right, so then the question is, in 15 years, we have doubled the amount of passengers. And so you must be thinking about the next step, because, you know, I'm not sure if it's gonna grow. You know, when you have a child and you buy shoes, and first the shoes go really high, and then all of a sudden it stops because, you know, otherwise. So is that, you expect the same, like the rate of growth to slow down, or what's the expectation?
So that's a very good question, Mr. Pujol. We are also at the same time updating our master plan, and that's where this growth rate came from, is our master plan update. We have two independent analyses that came to the same conclusion of the 4.8%. It is a very high percent. And so the master plan update will be looking at future enhancements to the terminal to accommodate this predicted growth.
And that because in terms of design, it barely works now to have the centerpiece to be the center of the design. But as this thing keeps growing and growing and growing, you're gonna have to have another design strategy to unify the airport. I'm not sure if I'm clear on what I'm saying, but I'm saying that the what we call the iconic shape of the airport nose and all that, it's very nice, very powerful. But you know, if you imagine twice as big of an airport, then it starts losing that. I guess.
If I may, so the current forecast, we develop these forecasts every 5 to 10 years. So it may not be in the next 5 years when we look at the forecast again, that it will be 4.8%. I will say 4.8% is a very high forecast number. Traditionally, it's more in the 3 to 2% range that I've seen.
You know, is there additional escalators there?
Yes, so one of the improvements that was shown on the site plan is including a new elevator and a new escalator configuration. So if you go back to the site plan on level 1, how I showed that the red hatch lines were new improvements in the existing terminal. So currently the escalators have a weird configuration where they actually take you from getting off the plane and don't put you out by the baggage. So people walk out the door and then they realize that's not where the baggage is. And then they walk back in, and it just creates this weird circulation pattern. So we're switching the escalators to now drop you by baggage when you get there. And we're adding an additional elevator on this side as well. So right now we only have 1 elevator, and now we'll have 2 for better consistency when they're working.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I saw when reviewing this package, were there additional slides? I thought there was something else, a large addition shown on the north end of the building in one of these slides.
So yes, board member, we do have the addition on the north side. I think that's just the next slide. So that's this hold room area here.
And it was much larger than that. I don't know where I saw that, but is that the last slide?
Yeah, that
Shows any.
that's the only addition on the north side that we have.
Oh, okay, maybe it was the earlier set. Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question about whether there are plans for enhancing the landscape areas out in the front and creating more seating areas, or, you know, it's very pleasant compared to most airports in terms of an outdoor experience when you're both leaving and coming back. But with the growth, there could be many more places to sit out in the front.
Thank you, board member. That's a really good comment we'll take into consideration. And just to give you an update on the current state of the landscaping, we are actually redoing those mounds on each side of the main entrance. The grass that was there wasn't really suitable to the mounding, and it needed more water. And so we found an alternative, and it's fenced off right now so it can get its roots down, but then hopefully that can also provide seating. But we'll definitely look at more seating.
I may add, a little bit of shade would be nice. I know you have the height problem, but being Santa Barbara and the Spanish, like the orange trees, like in Andalusia, we have El Paseo has this tree. They're low. I'm saying those because they're low. And I know you're concerned about height, but the front looks, the grass. I don't know. I'm not a fan of grass. It just looks like very sunny and very harsh to me. It's not my style in the gym. The rest of the boards feel, but something a little bit more shady with not so much emphasis on grass.
Thank you, Mr. Pujol.
Anyone else? Okay,
All right, thank you very much for letting us come before you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
thanks for the update. Okay, we can now move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Pujol.
We had, let's see, only one item. Item number C1 did not present plans. Item C2, 1022 Estrella Drive in Hope Ranch, that was approved as submitted. So I make a motion to that effect.
I'll second since I was here. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. That brings us to our standard agenda for the day. So let's get started with item number 1, Diener Trust New Residence, request of Jennifer Siemens, agent for Robert and Ann Diener for prelim and final review at 3091 Padaro. Last heard December 2nd, 2022. And do we have the applicant or applicants here? Please state your names for the record.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jennifer Siemens. I'm the agent for the owners, Ann and Bob Diener, and we have our architects here today as well. I think that date of our last review is incorrect. I have the minutes from March 18th. We came back for a revised concept review. It was a new design that we presented.
Okay.
And the minute, do you have those minutes?
Well, the only comments that we have,
Yeah.
2 that says architectural design is well executed and return with landscape plan.
Yes,
Does that
that's
sound
right.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got our approval from the zoning administrator on May 15th. And so, yeah, we're back for preliminary final approval. And I'm going to let Robin kick it off from here.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. Whenever you're ready, it looks like we're just, we're okay with everything. So if you just want to go right to the landscape plan, unless there were major changes and details.
Okay, that's fine with me.
So what's a good starting point?
Uh,
Pretty familiar with the project.
yeah, let's go to the next slide. I don't know that we have the landscape architect on, so I'll just do it. Let's go to the next. That's an existing survey. Next slide, please. And existing survey as well. Next slide. This is a civil plan showing the grading. We kept the grading very minimal, just right around the house. See the driveway coming in there. Keeping, there's some large existing trees. We're trying, the whole idea of this was to kind of knit the house in between as much of the existing landscape as possible. Next slide. If we can zoom in, it'd be helpful. Thank you. This is I'm not sure what the point of this drawing is. I'm sorry, guys. That's a,
Maybe we can just go right to the landscape plans.
yeah, let's just go to landscape, please. Yeah, there's this, oh, this has to do with the FEMA floodplain and the level of the house and all of that. That's all been vetted.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just go to get to the fun stuff.
Are there any changes to the structure?
Nope. No, the architecture is just what you guys saw before.
Up one, yeah, 28 or something.
There you go. Okay, great. Okay, so let's start at Padero Lane. As you come onto the property, we have a driveway that comes off of Padero, and that driveway comes off the street, and we're going to have a low 6-foot wall on each side with landscaping in front of it, and it's a stucco wall, and that is the existing. There's another house on these are two properties. There's another house on the ocean side of this parcel, and that driveway has a plaster wall as well, a stucco wall as well. So we're kind of picking up that same kind of look and feel coming off the street there. And you can see there's trees there that screen the wall. And then we've got a gate, and you can see there's pictures there of kind of the concept for the gate, which are to the right there on the page. Let's go to the next page, please. Planting plan, pretty much a lot of natives, drought tolerant, kind of stitching into the existing. There's an existing landscaped area all around this, to the west of the house where the other driveway comes on. All of it's meant to just kind of match and blend in, complement all the existing landscaping in that area. Next slide.
What's the second?
I think that's a planting plan on that page. And then I think we've got irrigation and details after that.
And WELO calculations, I think maybe I saw those in there.
Yeah, they should be on here. They're on here somewhere. Sorry, Chris, I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so I think there was a landscape lighting plan as well. So we'll just run through that because I think we saw some uplights. That was one of the questions I had. Are there up? It would be the last sheet.
I think there's a light on a couple of trunks of trees.
Yeah, which would there's no uplighting allowed, unfortunately, so we have to remove that. And how about architectural details? Since you're here for fun.
Yeah, you'd have to go back. I think maybe try like page 20 on somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. No, go the other way. I'm sorry. Go 20. Keep going. Keep going. Starting 20. I think 26. We have window and door details. Yeah, you start with 25. That's fine. We've got good wall sections and then the window details, exterior door details are on the next page. Actually, keep going. Yeah, maybe not. Go back the other way. They're in the package. These are sections. Go back. It's construction sections.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back to slide 20. Let's go back to slide 25 again. Slide 26, I'm sorry, next slide. Zoom in there, please. There's kind of the typical doors, window head section, the type of windows we're using, the door head, detail 5, detail 4, gable detail, detail 2.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else? Anything else we should look at, Robin? Oh, yeah, materials board. Maybe losing.
I believe that the colors and materials were submitted as a separate sheet. Do you see them on there?
No.
This is the only sheet that was submitted to us.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it wasn't. I think I'm thinking of another project.
What is that sheet number 2?
Oh, they're after the images.
Okay, let's try and
Just start from the top, I guess.
keep going. Scroll down after the images.
Oh, I think Robin got bumped off.
I think you might have. Those are all the renderings. So I think
Keep going. Yeah. Yeah. There they are.
there we go. Okay, we've kind of seen those before. So and your time's up. Okay. All right. Questions from the board? Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand or come down front. Okay, I see no one. Back to the board for comments. Open.
Mr. Chair, I think it's a fine project. It's ready for preliminary. Usually on final, we see a little bit more details and more specifics about the landscape and details of the architecture itself. I think that I have no issue with anything that I'm looking at, but in order to be consistent with all our approvals, I think final should be in the on consent. It will not delay the application. They can submit the building, but I think that would be the proper thing to do.
Okay, yeah, I'd like, there were a couple of strange species that I noticed on the planting plan as well. So I would ask that they take another look at. I think it's just something I hadn't heard of, so it doesn't mean it won't work, but it's just that first one in the upper left. And I wish the other landscape architects were here. But yeah, so I think it's good to go to consent and then also that there'd be no uplighting allowed. So study the. It's in the what? Great. Okay.
Hi, Aaron Lani, I believe you were raising your hand earlier. Did you have a comment for the landscape?
Zoom in. Image.
Hi, everybody. I'm one of the architects on this project, and I was just trying to jump in to help you guys navigate this package. So I don't really have any additional comments, just listening to you guys at this point.
I just had a question about the evergreen screening trees. It's just one I didn't recognize, so I just wanted to make sure that was the Chilean, whatever that says.
This is Julia Diener. I'm the landscape architect. I just wanted to raise my
Hi,
hand.
Julia.
And I'm here to answer any questions. In terms of the Luma apiculata, this is a tree that is native to Chile and Argentina. And I've used it on other coastal projects in the Bay Area. And I believe it would do well here as well.
Okay, just wanted to double check it. I think there was one other odd ball out. Maybe it was a camellia or something that didn't seem to fit the rest of the sort of native-y package. But again, not a big deal. Just study the plant list to be compatible with the existing site and the other plantings, and then no uplighting, and then return with additional details. So we have a maker of a motion with a preliminary. In a second. Second by Josh. All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, to return for final on consent. All right.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2. The Valley Heart Ranch additions, request of Becker Studios, architects for the owner Valley Heart Ranch LLC for further conceptual review and preliminary approval of an addition of 1,000 square feet, new detached garage, pool and site improvements located at 2556 Whitney Avenue. Last heard February 17th of this year. We have our applicants here. Please state your names for the record. I have to turn that.
Earl Becker with Becker Studios for Valley Heart Ranch. Here Smith with Boston Landscape Architecture.
Okay, and so we have a planner memo, if you could bring that up, Jonathan. Yes, and proceed for further conceptual preliminary planner comments. Staff request that the board review and approve or deny the height encroachment shown on sheet A-103 pursuant to either Article 2, Section 35-127 or the other article. And also, A3 shows the area of roof encroachment into the height limit, total roof area of 4464, total encroachment area of 122. That's 2.7%. You can scroll down a little bit. And then there are some exemptions shown. Also, pickleball and sports courts, there are no specific policies in Article 2 or the Summerlin Community Plan that prohibit sport courts or pickleball courts. The courts have been treated as flat work. The fences and lighting are compliant with our policies. So I will now turn it over to the applicant for your presentation. I'm going to set a timer here for 10 minutes. You can just review what has changed on your.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, I'm mixed up here. This is why it's nice to have the. I'm going to read through the comments from last time, although there are a lot of them. Were you planning on taking those one by one, or do you want me to read them? And then what do you think is the best way?
I actually have a presentation that covers, I think, pretty much all of these. So
Okay, then I'll just turn it over to you and save the time because we have a lot to do today.
Okay, so first and foremost, we have 6 neighbors onto this project, and we've been working with and focusing with one particular neighbor affected. This project was originally heard almost 2 years ago and was supported by the board in terms of architecture and compatibility. So, and with our most recent changes, what we've addressed was roof volume. We changed the main roof and from 5.5 and 12 to 4.5 and 12, reducing the overall roof height 1.5 feet. Secondly, the roof volume in the living room, we changed that from a 9.5 and 12 to a 7.5 and 12, reducing the roof 1 foot 11 inches. And then there was this item that the county had asked us to review the code section regarding the roof height in this zone pertains to existing grade. And this house is cut into a natural grade, so the existing house was cut in relative to the other structures. And so we prepared on sheet A 103, A 301, A 302, and A 303 exhibits regarding this. But we have approximately a 2.7% roof encroachment in the living room roof. Based on 7.5 and 12, we can go to, I think, which is an exhibit that shows, it's probably a PDF page. That's it. And so that shows the little bit of our encroachment, and that's based on the calculation at the further southeast point, where the most egregious calculation of encroachment is taken. But anyway, that's 2.7%. They're allowed under the code up to 10% encroachment. Secondly, under the comments that were given, we were asked to consider stepping retaining walls. So we did that on A401, limiting the front walls of the house. Currently, there's retaining walls at the front of the house as high as 8 to 9 feet. We've stepped them so that they're less than 6 feet as per our review with the planners. We've done the same thing at the lower garage on A401, reducing those down to 6 feet. And then at the rear of the property on the northeast corner, we reviewed it the last time we were here. So the far corner to the right-hand side, we reduced those retaining walls below 8 feet to be compliant with county code. We were asked by this board to consider softening some of the landscape up front. We added a section of turf block and planting at the front entry to reduce the pavement area, and that's right below the roof section. And it'll be covered under the landscape review. We also were asked to consider moving some of the house out of the side yard setback and the rear yard setback. We shifted the new addition out of the rear yard setback 6 inches and the side yard setback 5 feet to the new 10-foot setback. The house was originally built with a 5-yard setback, but the code upgrades through the year call for a 10-foot setback. Unfortunately, that shift does shift the house into the view line of the upward neighbor. And we should go to A402. Which is scroll. Like that drawing exhibits it too, but let's go to 402 if you don't mind. So in the upper drawing, you can see that between the property line, we have a retaining wall. The neighbor's at grade driveway is approximately 7 foot 6 inches in height. So that, we're proposing at that boundary line to build a new retaining wall and then step a terraced wall so that we can create additional landscape and privacy between the properties. But the neighbor's grade is at the same. Our plate height in this drawing is 8'6". That's the grade's at 7'4". So you get kind of a relative sense of the way that goes. But we've stepped this back bedroom section, the new addition section to the house back, leaving only one small encroachment at the corner, which is the window that you see in the distance. That's a piece of a bathroom. So we responded to the board's request in that regard. I think it would be good to shift to sheet A 300 or 301, 302, if we can start reviewing those. So this is existing elevation from the rear, and then this is the new proposed elevation from the rear. The So if you'll scroll down, that is the elevation from the neighbor's property on the west. And this is the extension of the westerly boundary line. The step line is approximately where the fireplace chimney stack is above the roof. And then if you'll go to the next drawing, which would be A303. This is the view if so the upper is the easterly elevation and the lower drawing is the proposed. Since our last meeting, we made changes to the roof height. It was previously this bedroom wing that affects the neighbor to the west was reduced from 15 feet and changed down to 14.1 as iterated here. And we took time validating and reviewing our survey to make sure that what was represented to the board was accurate. And I'm gonna ask Kier to review that in just a minute. What I would like to do, however, is to
Got about
ask us to go to A911.
got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that include Kier's time?
Yes.
Okay, why don't I bump this over to Kier and then he can review these renderings.
Thank you. We actually start really quick with the landscape, but you guys have seen this. It hasn't really changed too much at all, actually, since the last meeting. It's still the same proposed plant palette. As Daryl mentioned, a few retaining wall heights, but we still intend to soften those with vines and different types of plantings. And then throughout, just for the board members who weren't here last time, we're utilizing a dry Mediterranean plant palette throughout to complement the architecture. And so in addition to the updated elevations that Daryl mentioned, the section elevations that that are really accurate at this point, the board they actually asked for some eye level elevations. Those are the ones that Daryl was referring to. So the Mainses, who are the westerly neighbors, were gracious enough to let us in their home to take those photos from those different vantage points. And so Paul Cook, our surveyor, since our last meeting, had taken a 3D radar scan rendered model creation of Daryl's neighbors as well as the property as built. And so we received that model integrated into our modeling software, and then essentially aligned our horizon lines with the photos that we took in real time. And so, in addition, we've had a lengthy conversation with the Mainses, when we visited there regarding the property line screening and what's being proposed for the fencing. But yeah, if we can actually just scroll down a couple of those. Yeah, we'll keep this quick. Is that the last one? I'm sorry, can we go up, please? Go on, please. You keep going, like maybe 3 more sheets, that'd be great. There we go. These are some renderings that I believe the board had seen previously, just to kind of give a feel for it. But if we can go down to the vantage point renderings, or sorry, down please. Thank you. So these are significantly doubled, but so this is one of the views looking at the corner of the house from the main living area, showing the step retaining wall. We would go up, please. Oh, sorry, down. And so these are pictures, kind of before and after pictures taken from these windows, as close as we can get them, but showing the roof line, kind of touching points of the wood fence, and then some plant material that would be protruding above that fence. But these have been reviewed by the westerly neighbor, and I believe since then.
I just want to add real quick to clarify. So we met, since we submitted these plans, we met with the westerly neighbor and we've capitulated to, we've re-story pulled the yard, and we've agreed to focus on what we'd like to do is get your approval for preliminary approval with following conditions today. Addressing the fact that we would make efforts to reduce the massing of that chimney in the bedroom. Secondly, reduce the plan as submitted from 14.1 down 24 inches in a new submitted elevation of that bedroom wing. And then
Sorry, could you repeat that? So lowering the,
just the bedroom wing to the backyard that we would essentially, right now it's represented at 14.1. We met with them, we story pulled it. We've got 2 different string lines, which we have photos of, and we've agreed to take it down 24 inches. So it would go down to 12.1. And other than that, we would like to have our plate height on the west side go from 8'6" back to 9, so it matches the rest of the house, which it wouldn't affect anything, wouldn't affect the view line. And then basically that's it.
We can scroll down. There's a couple more renderings you may have reviewed or not, but
yeah, we reviewed these
like that.
already. So let's move on to back to the board then for questions.
And do you have sections, side sections, north, south, east, west, really clear sections showing the relationship of your proposal to the neighbors and to the street?
We do.
Can you enlarge that, Chuck? So that one, so this is yours, this is your neighbor,
Correct.
this is also yours, and that's the street is.
The lower neighbor.
Oh, it's another neighbor right here, okay,
Correct.
okay, and about the other one? Take a look at the other section. And what's this? What is this?
This section through the middle of the house and the neighbor to the west.
Okay, so it's in the same direction. These are east-west sections.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And how about north-south? You have something like that?
Yes, there.
Down.
That's north south.
So the street is here or what?
No, that's still,
That's still, no,
that's
that's,
south.
so this section is on 404. 404, and 402.
Okay. Is this it?
Correct, right there.
Okay,
There it is.
and this is the neighbor or what? What am I looking at?
No, so that's where the green dot is, there's a shed in the neighbor's backyard. That's the neighbor's house right there.
All right, great, thank you.
Wait, other questions?
I did want to clarify, we did do an exhibit on A007, it's PDF3, which shows similar site sections. There's a project directly across the street being built that was designed by Handicap Architecture, which is literally the same, our east-west premise is, there it is there on the left-hand side, image number 2. If you take a look at that project, that's essentially a 3-story house being built directly across the street from us. And it too, I mean, it's not too, we don't come anywhere near being encroaching in the 25-foot air setback. We're proposing a roof height at 14 feet, reduced now to 12.
Okay, got it. Any other questions?
I have a question. You've reduced the height of the building at the bedroom wing. I'm talking about, what I'm concerned about is the blockage of the neighbor's view, which is on your west side. And, the Vulcan of the building was high and obstructed his view. Have you, been able to reduce the height of that? I know you said you reduced the height of the bedroom.
So John, on 302 and 303, and as I started off this presentation, we reduced the living room wing 1 foot 11 inches, and on the main roof, we reduced it 1 foot 5 inches across the main roof of the house. So.
Well, the encroachment, the 5, that's where the house was originally built.
Correct.
And- All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Let's move on to public comment. We have some speaker slips here. Start with Gary Podler. You'll have 2 minutes. And when you hear that bell, please finish your thought.
Thank you. We're at 202 Olive Street. We share the Beckers more than property down. We have 10 acres on the other side. The fence currently encroaches on our property. Mr. Becker said it's temporary. I drew it to his attention first over a year ago, and it's still there. The plans show something labeled existing grade, though what was existing grade currently exists under at least 200 yards of unpermitted and engineered uncompacted fill, rising as much as 6 feet above what was existing. Mr. Becker just told me that it's temporary, and if it ultimately is permitted, engineered, and impacted, then I'll be satisfied with that. In the last hearing, Mr. Becker made more than one reference to something called net grade. I couldn't find a definition for that. Presumably that means if you cut 1,000 yards and fill 1,000 yards, you net out at 0. I don't think that's a valid method. The proposed pool is proposed for the area we can fill now. That'll have to be engineered and property. The pool also encroaches on the rear setback. Isn't that? Sheet A011 shows an area designated as compensation for setback encroachment, where the pool could be, which would clear the pool out of the setback. Other areas of compensation are completely within the yard, not to the benefit of the neighbors who are intended to be beneficiaries of the setback. The front setback, which is within 40 feet of the center line of Whitney Avenue, is proposed a large upper motor court behind an 18-foot rolling gate, a main gate, lots of landscaping, 4 flights of stairs, multiple planters, including one of nearly 800 square feet, site walls, at least 3 separate concrete driveways, and the lower motor court. So 3 driveways, 2 motor courts, and all the other stuff.
Sorry, that was the 2 minutes. So if you can wrap up here and let us know, in general, if you're in support or against.
I'm against. The accessory dwelling unit also encroaches on the rear setback. And Mr. Becker clarified that that's not the subject of this application. That would be a future application, but this is a setback for constricting the area where an ADU could be after everything else is developed. And so there's no room for an ADU except in the setback that's supposed to be to our benefit.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Tom Evans.
westerly view from the neighbor's house that we were showing.
Is that one of the images or?
The view of the Becker house from the Mines house. It was up earlier.
Is that one of the photos?
No, it's a elevation. Well, I'm not sure, it's from the Mines house looking at the Becker residence.
Elevation or rendering or photo?
I guess it'd be an elevation. It was up earlier. I'm sure he knows which was one of the first things we looked at. Now it's a bigger scale. What it does, it shows the west, it shows the west end, not that one, from this side, this way. No, the other. Going around, that's it. Okay, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to point out, if you look at the upper current situation, that's not totally accurate. The gable end shown there is actually two small ridges with hips on them. Does not look like that. And as you were on the site, you remember that you looked right over all that. Now, this gable here is a huge gable for Summerland. That distance from one to the other is out of the Summerland scale. And normally we don't like to see a long wall like that, but it's not so bad since it's kind of, hidden by the retaining wall. But that huge gable there, by Summerland standards, is going to be way over the Mines' sight line. And it's going to be 5 feet from the property line, which it wouldn't be permitted now. And I think that there should be a strong effort to break that down into a couple gables, hip it, or do something to get it down and away. Maybe a partial gable, partial hip with a gable, but that is going to be a very strong presence, only 5 feet away. The use of the architectural projection interpretation to get over, to raise part of the ridge, I think is a questionable thing. It's the first time we've seen it in Summerland. And we did a lot of study when we did the 25-foot height limit for Summerland. We had site sections of a bunch of houses that have been built with different lines on them and so on, the staff prepared, and we spent a lot of time on that. That's why you don't have the 3 foot for 4 and 12 in Summerland proper, because with the houses that close, it's too much of a view impact. But anyway, the ridge he's using the architectural projection for, just to get a little extra height, is not an architectural projection. It's a ridge, and they're different animals. Anyway, it's also contrary to what your direction was. Your direction was to lower everything, and now staff's come up with this interpretation that makes it okay to raise it. So I think that's incorrect. It's really hard to read these plans, and I'm assuming that the current plate heights are 8 feet on that house. And then I understand from what he said that it's 9 feet on the new plates. But if you look at the various renderings that show this house compared to other houses, in fact, if we can go to 401.
Tom, that was the 2 minutes. We're getting to wrap.
Okay, well, that's it. Anything that is done to satisfy the neighbor has to be very carefully documented, because these plans do not have much information on it. It's really hard to figure everything out. And normally we see ridge heights, finished floor heights, plate heights, all on a very clear section. And that needs to be really documented well, because I looked at the new line that they're proposing, and the Mines seem happy with it, but it's very borderline. Any mistake on that would not work.
Got it. Thank you.
Did you get comments from the association?
Yes, there was a letter from Summerland.
And was it in regards to the various issues or in regards to pickleball?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there should have been one on a bunch of other issues, some of which I have covered, but according to Jonathan, it's not here.
Got it. Okay, we need to move on. Alma Mains.
No, I don't need to go over the site plan. I'm just here because there's been some changes in conversation with Daryl about the roof height on the addition of the master or the primary portion of the house. And those are not noted in these plans, but he has agreed and we are happy with the 12-2 discussion height of the roof. And so I guess what I'm saying is, can we note that in the meeting notes? And I'd like to see those on the revised set of plans. And I just have one question, if that was, I didn't ask earlier, is that from finished floor or from grade now? Is that 12-2?
Currently, the illustrated drawing is based on survey. And so we're showing the roof height and the bedroom wing at 14.1. We've agreed to reduce it down to the 12.2.
Can you show us on the plans where this is?
Yeah, I showed that previously. 300. A300.
Does that number reflect the string line that is up currently that you
Correct.
put up? Okay.
Correct. So this plan shows the roof reductions that John, you had brought up previously and you were questioning. So if you look at it, there's dotted lines of the reduction that we made in the overall design of the house pursuant to the board's input. But on the bedroom wing, there is a call out of the roof height of 14 feet, 1 inch. And what we've stipulated to the mains is, and we went.
Is that here?
Correct. That point there.
Okay.
And so that leading edge of the roof, we've agreed to, we re-story pulled it between the last story polling and this meeting for the benefit of the neighbor to look at and us to look at and us to work through these problems. And we capitulated to reducing that. I went and met with them, sat in their yard, sat in their house, listened, understood.
So does this become more of a flat roof then?
What we're going to be doing is raising the plate height on the westerly side to 9 feet, and then we're going to flatten that roof down. We're going to lose probably the clear story that was proposed. And so what we'd like to do today is we'd like to get conceptual preliminary approval so that when we come back with our final plans, we have that reduced to 14.2.
And so,
Sorry, 12.2.
So that maneuver would satisfy you all?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Any other public comment? Do you have anything to add?
I do. There is.
The other thing I want to state that we agreed to was to reduce the massing of the fireplace chimney stack on that roof.
Thank you. Page, just quick question, page A905 has a proposed retaining wall with a fence. And I was just wondering what the height was overall. I believe Soren sent me the height that was noted on a page, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So there's right now we have a hedge in the driveway.
On the property line?
Yes.
So
That 905.
Bottom right.
it's actually on A300 right there. Right. Right.
There's a rendering that he drew, page A905, that you can see clearly. Yes,
Sorry, are you looking for the height from your like finished driveway to the top of that fence?
mhm.
Okay, so there's a dimension that can be added to this drawing, probably to show that, right? Is there
Yeah, I
another
think
place
there-
to look at this?
I could take that though, but.
I mean, it's dimension from the,
It's top of
from
wall to the
from the
fence.
proposed side. to the top.
It's only about 5 feet.
Yeah, the call out is a new 5-foot fence sitting on top of the wall,
Yeah.
and the wall is 6 inches above. I believe it changes as the driveway, but up at the top.
It's
about
basically
a 6 inch
5'6" above your driveway
Okay. All right.
or so.
Thank you.
I assume the driveway is sloped a little bit, so.
Yeah, as it
there's a
goes
point
down,
that-
the wall climbs. As the driveway goes down towards the main street, the wall will have to get built up. And that's kind of the area in question, is where the wall comes up. What
I
is
think
that?
you guys need to agree on where you're measuring that from, and then everybody will understand what they're looking at. But as long as we can get that clarified between now and the next meeting, that would be very
I
helpful.
would add, just quickly, that we would coordinate that with the neighbors. I think it's most of the fence height is for their benefit, so we would determine that. for
Yep,
them
That's
as
fair.
well.
Find a good point there. Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? If you'd want to address the letter from Summerlin Board, I have a quick question here. What's the tree at the southwest corner of the structure?
So this is a preliminary palette. You know, we're showing in our renderings, you know, olive tree type plants, pineapple guava trees.
Okay, so that's
So-
basically right here. I just want to make sure that that's not going to block view from driveway also.
Yes,
So consider that. Okay. We just got the second letter from Summerlin. Yeah, throw it up there and then we'll go.
The number was 12-1, not 12-2.
Okay, no problem. Are those your glasses? Okay, moving on, or bring it back to the board for comments. And we'll just leave the Summerlin letter up.
Mr. Chair, yeah,
Yes.
I was hoping to just interject really quick. So we have Shannon Reese online. She's the supervising planner that supervises Soren, the planner, and she's available to. I think there was a comment she wanted to make with regards to the planner memo and the two different options available to the board with regards to the height and the different height exceptions within Article 2. Jonathan, I think she's not a panelist. Could you unmute her?
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second.
Great, thanks, Jonathan.
Hey, Shannon.
Hi there. Thank you. Can you?
Yes, I think we can hear you. Okay, I think you need to unmute yourself then. There you go.
Sorry about that. It took a second for me to rejoin as a panelist. So I just wanted to say, I think the memo, lays out the two options for you to allow the height that they decreased, but that still slightly exceeds from existing grade what's allowed. And staff would recommend the second option. The first option was put forth by the applicant team, but we do think that the second option is more supportable. So if you were inclined to allow the additional height based on either of those sections of the code, we'd encourage you to go with the second option.
Okay, scroll down. Which one is that? The B that's highlighted?
Yes.
Allowing greater flexibility and guidelines when that are serving interests.
That's all I had to add, but I'm happy to answer any other questions as well.
Could you be more specific? I don't understand. Is it between A and B?
Yeah, they're both options that would allow for that additional ridge height. And then what this section 35-144.4 allows is exemptions to the hillside ridgeline height requirements. And there are A and B are both options that you can use for that exemption, and staff recommends that B is more fitting for this situation.
Doesn't say anything. Okay. All right, comments from the board.
So what, yeah, I guess the question about that, what is the how much you're exceeding the height limit? And what
Well,
portion of it?
it's just a very small portion of the roof, and
What's the area?
it's in the living room.
No, I know, but it's
Oh,
so it's 144 square feet
144 square feet.
and up to how high, what's the height?
The total height is it's just at 25 feet. It's like
It's above, how many, isn't the height limit
144 feet. And again, this is, you gotta understand,
how much does it exceed the height limit? I'm trying just to get the numbers. So,
um, $25 feet, 7 inches, so 7-inch encroachment.
just the 7-inch encroachment for 12 feet by 12 feet. So, okay.
It's original.
On the ridge line only.
Yes.
Okay. And that is would be to allow flexibility to better serve the interest of good design without negatively affecting the neighborhood compatibility. All the surrounding use. Okay, that's the finding, right? Okay. Very good.
Okay, do you want to go into your comments?
Well, I have really just a general comment. Plans that you're presenting are hard to read. I've been on this board, other boards for 26 years. I've seen a lot of plans. Yeah, and you're presenting preliminary plans, and it should be some not working drawings. And you start with preliminary plans and just to establish the concept. We should be very clear to the observer. Oh, this is what's going on. This idea, this all these layers and the colors and dimensional lines, and it is just hard to read, hard to communicate, and that hurts you because you're providing extra information that because you maybe provide these plans if you want to satisfy the planners or something, but this board needs to see simple things: the site plan, a roof plan, site sections. That's really about it. Very clear. And when you want an exemption, you have to show, okay, this area right here, 7 inches, so nice and clear, and everybody in the whole audience, the whole city can understand that. These plans are, look at this plan, look at the ones I'm looking at. I mean, I see a whole bunch of lines. It's hard to read. It's not like the house is one color, the pickleball is another color. See the streets, the two elevation, the side, the setbacks. There is a whole lot of information that it works against the communication, and that's why this meeting is taking so long. But really, we should have been done half an hour ago. I'm a little bit frustrated. I'm sorry I express it like that, but that is really what happens. You keep asking questions because it's just hard to read. I'd like the design. I think the design has some nice features. I'm trying to understand specifically what does bother which neighbor and for what reason. And I'm kind of wrapping my head around that. Seems to be they're making progress. The landscape is appropriate. The style of the house is appropriate. It's just that the presentation is so awkward, and that's why it's not flowing smoothly. Those are my comments.
Ms. Frasher?
I agree with those comments. It's really hard to decipher the critical elements of what we're trying to review here. It's a very aggressive project for this neighborhood, and you're seeing the results of that in all of the back and forth with all the neighborhood issues. And I do appreciate the lowering that you've done of the master bedroom. I was going to ask for that, but you've already been working on that because that is a place where you can definitely help the situation. But in terms of the retaining walls, it's hard to tell what's happening to who. And the height exemption, it seems pretty minor, but given everything, it'd be better if it wasn't there. So I'm on the fence about that. You're close to making it work without it. But I mean, this process gets really cumbersome, but this is what happens when you have a very aggressive project on a relatively small site in a dense neighborhood on a hillside with lots of views. And with existing unpermitted grading that seems to have harbored bad blood from the past. We've seen that cause great problems in other neighborhoods too, so. Those are my comments.
Mr. Verdiak?
Yeah, I agree with those comments. It's, you know, we're charged with mass bulk scale neighborhood compatibility. That's what we're looking at. And I know you've reduced the height, but it still seems too big. You know, I mean, it doesn't, you know, it is hard to read. And I know from going up on the site and seeing what was blocked from the neighbor's view, that it still doesn't seem like that's been solved, that problem. It's too big. It's not.
Mr. Bloomer?
Well, for starters, I don't find the plans that hard to read, but I'm an expert at reading plans, so I understand the comments from the folks that aren't experts. And maybe that next time we see it, we can make it a little easier for people who aren't used to reading plans. But just for the record, I'm very clear about what I'm looking at. It's not hard for me to assess this. Having said that, I want to say that from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, you know, architectural style seems great, fine. The architectural character, the detailing, the style of the house, the execution of the design is very well done. Seems like a very nice architecture. I really appreciate the color palette, the darker palette at the top of the hill. I think this is successful. I think the landscape design overall is well done and acceptable. I think in terms of supporting the overall the modification, I can get behind that at this point, because I think there has been some mitigation for the neighbor. My number one concern on this project, having said all that, is making sure that the mains, you know, in the Beckers have adequately resolved their differences around this new proposed work. And having heard from Ms. Maines today and from Mr. Becker, it sounds like they've made the effort to work together. So first, I'd like to commend you for doing that. It takes something to do that. I know this was a very difficult conversation for both parties to have, and a very charged conversation at that. So thank you for making that easier for us today. And thank you for doing that. I don't want to step in front of any progress that you've made as neighbors. So there's things that I could ask for push this further, but kind of don't want to, again, step in front of the progress you've made. So having heard from the Mains and hearing that they're satisfied with the concessions you've made, and hearing from you, Mr. Becker, on your willingness to do so, kind of I'm inclined to really support your project at this point. I think the board would, I'm not sure. It seems like a full site and a lot of program. And again, I agree with Mr. Peugeot. I think the complexity of your drawing kind of makes it feel like there's more going on there than maybe it is. So maybe next time you bring this around, try to attend to that so that there's a better visual representation of the amount of development on the site. Maybe the landscape architect will figure that out, the ground plane or something like that. But you know, if there's any way to grade the house down another foot, it would be, I'm sure, benefit to everything we've been discussing here. But I certainly at this point won't put that into the record as a condition. But, you know, I noticed that in these type of projects, you have to kind of hold your ground as you move through this and have to be careful about the concessions you make. But now that we've reached some middle ground here where we're kind of, everybody's equally dissatisfied. But all kidding aside, you guys have negotiated something, so now there's some relaxation, and hopefully the architecture, the designers, the architects, the landscape architects can take another look at this with a bit more confidence with the neighbors. Maybe find some other ways to just improve the overall compatibility of the neighborhood. Takes a lot of effort to design a house in this condition, and I think, you know, there's more work to be done, but again, I don't want to step in front of the progress you guys have made as neighbors. And this board certainly appreciates all that and makes our job easier, and ultimately we want your neighborhood to be harmonious. And so with that, I would say I could support moving the project forward. I think the board, I might be able to make a motion. Let's hear from Chris first. That's all I have to say.
I don't have too much to add other than I kind of agree with everything that's been said, really. There's a lot happening. This to me is hard to read. You know, the landscape plan's a lot easier to see. But I just think there's too many retaining walls everywhere. You're built out completely to the outer edges of the site all the way around. And to me, that's going to seem very busy and heavy on the site. And it's a more casual, rural-esque neighborhood to me. So I think, you know, multiple driveways and lots of retaining walls out of the street and then all the way around. I don't like that it's still in the side yard setback. I think the neighbor to the west would greatly appreciate that, staying within the setback. And I think that would help the board out as well. It's very ambitious, and not to say that it shouldn't be necessarily, but it's in terms of neighborhood compatibility, it's very heavy on the site. It almost has a wedding cake feel to it, like in a villa, which I guess it is. And also I would not support lighting probably for the pickleball court. I think that doesn't seem compatible with the neighborhood either. So really, I guess my comment would be soften the streetscape further. Turf block just doesn't work. It's whatever you plant in there is going to die. So where do we go from here? I guess I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, but at first I'd like to get the board's consensus on supporting the modification or not.
Seems like we're mixed.
I could support a modification, but I'm not sure if I see everything that happens. The site plan, the landscape plan seems to show it's a lot more clear. We can go to this.
Towards the end.
32, I think it is. You know, so I think that's the one we should be looking at. Because at least you have some idea of what's going on in that plan. And that's what I mean. Like, things should be easy. You know, you guys should be able to look from a distance and say, "Oh, I know." It's not clear what the height of those walls are. But you guys know what the side walls. I mean, because we're talking about.
Yeah, like what are the heights of these walls, and is that what we're asking? When there's
Yeah.
There's an underground garage in here, right underneath the pickleball court.
I can clarify, those walls are 6 feet. Those are all reduced to 6 feet.
That's here.
All the front walls are below 6 feet.
Yeah, so that seems imposing. I think that
Mhm.
seems very.
No, that front wall is low. That's like 3.
These are 3-foot step retaining walls, so
Okay.
these would be 3 feet. The garage right here, or sorry, the gate here.
5 feet.
Gate also, okay.
Yeah, that's-
Sliding gate.
There's no gate.
So I mean, you guys understand the grade significantly changes downhill.
Yeah.
That's why we are creating the garage down below. But retaining wall. Here, there's an 8-foot retainer right now. These are all being cut down. And all these walls, these step walls are 4 to 6 feet in here, same over here.
How are you cutting them down? By lowering the finished floor or what?
By creating the terraces. Right now, there's one large 8-foot retaining wall that supports the driveway.
If
The
you
house.
could go up.
So
two
now you have
slides.
multiple walls.
Correct.
Which is right here, right? Currently, there's a big 8-foot
Correct.
here. Yeah.
I mean, we'd love not to have to terrace the front, but you know, the main house is up 10 feet from the driveway.
There's some renderings that show this really clearly on a few slides up.
I think that would be great to go to the front rendering.
Keep going, like maybe four
Above the.
we'll have four more sheets. I apologize, you know, there's 3 board members who weren't here last time, so. But if you could go up one more.
Yeah, there you go. That one, you can enlarge that one. Right there. Yeah, enlarge the front elevation. Yeah, but. Yeah.
So
This
if you
is
look at the mains driveway, and you see how our house was cut into grade 7 feet.
Yeah, keep going. So that's what that would, and it is for summer and it's quite a bit. Also, I like the style. I just think that there was a way there's a way to soften the.
Yeah, I think a lot can be done with planting. You know, you need those retaining walls, but we can hide them. Also, so I think we're gonna want to push for that for sure.
So, Mr. Chair, do we have any question? Are there any conditions that the board any board members have around supporting the modification specifically?
Conditions to support the modification.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been writing down the comments, but let me take a stab at this and see. So I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Please.
And so I would make a motion for preliminary approval to come back on full board for final review with the following notation of the fence height. So it's absolutely clear that the fence boundary bordering the Mainces and Becker's property.
Or the western property boundary.
Yeah, so very clear information about the fence height and hedge height that's proposed there. Very clear recording of the new roof elevations as per the agreement that the Mainz and the Beckers have come to, they're agreed upon roof heights. Which, includes the new plate height and the revisions to the shed roof as well. I hear a driveway material needs to be restudied. I hear softening of the retaining walls. And I hear cleaning up the site plans for a more clear visual representation. And with those comments, unless there's any discussion on that, I'll open this up for discussion. The board would be inclined to support the modification, although I don't believe we have to come to a conclusion on that until we get to final. So we could say we tentatively support at this point, but I believe officially we're not having to support it until we get to final officially, right?
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Considering that it's only 7 inches, why can't you just lower the roof? Just a question.
Well, I mean, I think it has to do with just the order. I mean, the predominant living room is in the lee side of the gable of the main house. And we want that to be a stronger architectural feature. It faces the street. That was originally rendered and supported by this board 2 years ago at 9.5 and 12.
That point right there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's catching that roof. So we want it to be higher than the other roof. The other roof comes into it. So it's an architectural order. So.
I mean, this roof line went from 5 and 12 to 4.5.
Correct. Then we dropped the main gable in the living room to 7.5 and 12.
All right.
I'm just thinking that gable that you're speaking of is from the street. It's been very dominant already. And it doesn't have to be the same as the ridge necessarily. Anyway, go ahead, Joe.
One more comment for the record around the proposed, what am I doing?
The modification.
My proposed motion. these two trees in the front yard do a nice job of screening the house, but I'm concerned about potential view blockage from the mains. We've done a lot of work here to protect views that, you know, whether entitled to or not, but just in terms of neighborhood harmony, these potentially could block the view and should be reviewed. And they also kind of block the view from the actual proposed residence, which I know is very important to people investing in this site location. That the views are important. So I would say these two trees in the front yard setback as part of the motion should be restudied. Or as a
Determine
condition.
an appropriate species.
We're not,
Yeah.
we're not wed to the mass of that tree. And we support your comments both for us and for the mains.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We need to move on here.
Yeah, I made part of my motion includes a requirement to soften the retaining walls. That can be done by adding new material or adding the landscape, but I think they should be softened.
I think a combination of various, screening,
Some of the
cascading.
the lower walls could be
vines.
done with stone. The upper walls could be done with plaster, but that would break them up a bit. Landscape, material to help.
Okay, so there's motion. Is there a second? Okay, well, is there an alternate motion? We need to see it one more time with all the. It was putting a lot under.
I think we should see it one more time with the comments shown and just to see exactly what is it including. And reducing the scale whenever, whatever, to make a general direction. I like the direction the project has gone. It has to be one more step. That would be my direction.
Okay, well, having heard that, I'll send my motion. And I just, Mr. Chair, recommend we bring it back on for the conceptual. Again, my compliments to the applicant and the neighbors for working together.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you.
You're getting there. It's.
I don't feel like we are at this point.
Okay, let's move on, guys. We're not gonna have any more discussion on this. We gotta close this up.
Okay. All right, item number 3. Bashirtishan residents requested Rachel Rayner, agent for Masood Bashirtishan, for conceptual and preliminary review of a new 3,297 square foot single family dwelling and detached garage, and a reduction of the required number of parking spaces from 4 off-street to 3 on a currently vacant parcel, requiring 1,000 cubic yards of cut and 100 of fill, located at 2202 Calle Culebra in Summerlin area. Last heard December 3rd, 2021. Where are we on? Can we state your names for the record, please?
Red means on, right? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good morning, almost afternoon. My name is Rachel Raynor with RRM Design Group. Here with me today, I have Debbie Pikert and Jolie Watt with RRM Design Group, both representing our architecture team. I'm going to walk you through the little bit of the process, the reason for the modification request that was before you today.
Before you get into that, I just want to introduction first, but we have a planner memo that I want to bring up first.
Perfect.
So planners comments, the request for parking reduction comes from site constraints due to slope. Approximately 43% of the 12,400 square foot lot area is undevelopable due to slope restrictions, leaving 7,000 square feet of developable space on the parcel. Square footage is further reduced by setback restrictions. Okay, so yeah, so whenever you're ready, we've seen this before also, so I would say timer for 10 minutes.
Great, thank you.
Just one more addition that I wanted to add to the modification request and the justification. We are a through lot subject to a front yard setback on both the sides of Cali Culebra that the site abuts. So we are subject to that requirement, further inhibiting the development envelope. So as you mentioned, we came before your board for conceptual review in December of 2021. We've received minutes from that meeting that we want to just go down one by one to address. We'll also include a response to the Summerland Board of Architectural Review that we submitted to after we came to your board. Alrighty, so comment number 1 was regarding the glass railings. Jonathan, if you can go to sheet 12. Some of the members had suggested to restudy the glass railing. We did restudy the glass railings and feel that the proposed are consistent and appropriate with the proposed architectural style. And additionally, we reviewed this potential change with our client, and the client would like to retain the glass railings as proposed to retain unobstructed views of the ocean. Next comment was consider larger roof overhangs. If you can go to sheet 14. We did modestly increase the extension of the roof overhangs, but did not want to, we wanted to try and strive for a less imposing profile of the home as it, as you ascend the site up the slope. Next comment was the 4-story appearance of the solid glass viewed from below should be softened. If you go back to sheet 12, we did reduce the glass windows at the upper garage level to help soften the appearance of that tallest component of the project. The next comment was restudy the entry stairway to make it more residential in scale. You go to sheet 13. We removed the 13 and 15-foot tall columns that were previously proposed in that entry stairway close to the driveway, to help keep it in. I think the board's concerns were it looked a little commercial in nature, and we tried to bring it more residential in scale and style. The next comment was provide a landscaping plan. If you go to page 20 of the plan set, we have our conceptual landscape plan. The 2 subsequent sheets go into the key elements of that proposal. Happy to go into that in deeper review if there's time. But just a quick kind of overview, if you can zoom in, Jonathan. Actually, maybe go to page 21. That has our design key, and then zoom in a little bit if you don't mind. So the intent of the landscape plan was to include evergreen screening trees along that property line that we share with an adjacent neighbor. The plan north in this view there's no lot there. That's open space that's managed by the Montecito Trails Foundation. So, and that's an existing hedge that's denoted by a key design. It's number 1, I believe. And then there's some outdoor kind of living room features at the bottom of the site with a outdoor deck and a terrace and some variety of different seating areas and a small spa. The next comment was the garage element needs further study to better fit with the rest of the architecture. If you can go to sheet 10. So we felt we looked at this upon our revisions to county planning and development through our completeness review process, and felt that the garage element utilizes the same materials of the residents and wanted to keep that continuity across the design of both the garage and the primary residence structure below. Just wanted to add that the variation of the exterior glazing and exterior plaster expands with the garage component elevations, provides interest and articulation to the elevations. Next comment was soften the color and material palette. You go to sheet 15, that's our colors and materials board. We did darken the white plaster color to a bit warmer white. And then the darker stone material, maybe zoom out a little bit, Jonathan, if you don't mind. Happy to zoom in again if the board desires.
So we did lighten that darker stone material as well. The white plaster lower walls on the site have been darkened and changed to a concrete plaster. And the last two comments were project should be reviewed by the Summerland BAR. Just wanted to note that that is not a requirement to get a permit through county planning and development, as noted on the BAR informational packet on the county's website. But nonetheless, we did, after our December 2021 conceptual review, submitted to the Summerland BAR in January of 2021, and then followed up shortly later. Received comments quickly back from their committee, which we responded to in a resubmittal to county planning and development. And so their comments entailed, please provide the LRV values of the intended paint products, which have been provided on this sheet that's on the screen. Then the next comment was soften the white color value of the garage fascia. They said shadowed white siding is not true brightness value indication. So we said that our response was the stucco color of the garage will match the exterior color of the home, which has been softened to that Dunn Edwards DE 6218 antique paper LRV value 81. They had a similar comment about the glass surfaces, which I already previously responded to. They had a similar comment about roof overhangs, which I previously responded to. They had a question about the roofing material and whether that would be seen from street and homes above. Our response to that was the roofing material will not be seen from the street level, but from the homes on Lower Cali Culebra. The roof material that may be seen will be a stucco parapet with a mid-tone built-up roofing membrane. And then if you go to sheet 12, their next comment was provide roof and floor elevations of adjacent buildings, which we've denoted on the sheet. And like I mentioned, we don't have a neighbor to sheet right. So we denoted them for the neighbor to the left.
Can you tell us what are these? Those like boulder outcroppings? What are these?
What are they?
Yeah.
Yes, they are boulder outcroppings, and it's kind of to fit in with we have more of a natural stairway on each side of the building. And those are to help support them. Jolie, if you want to add to that.
Basically, the landscape has, as you said, a much more natural feel to it. And so the idea, we wanted to really root the house into the hillside. And so the slab steps are stone steps, and then we have boulder outcroppings sort of intermingling between the pathways going around the house.
So they're not shown in this plan, though.
Number 7, I think he's showing a boulder, and then they may be hidden by some of them.
Okay, so the rendering look like they're like, the size of Volkswagen buses.
No, they're not meant to be. It's just more boulder outcroppings, just
Okay.
to really
Got it.
root the home into the hillside.
Anything else?
That should do it.
Okay, see, good, quick, succinct presentation. Very smooth. Thank you.
That was the goal.
Okay, questions from the board.
Just one question on page 12. Well, yeah, so there was this thing about the railings. I can see the third floor has I guess a 42-inch railing, a guardrail. How about the second floor? It's not clear either on this one or on the next elevation. What happens there?
The second floor actually has a combination, as far as the railing goes, of a lower parapet at the bottom, which is stucco,
Okay.
and then there's just a smaller portion of glass. at
So
the
that
top.
solid place is actually a guardrail, acts as a guardrail.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly,
okay,
exactly.
very
So,
good.
so there's a minimal amount of glass on
Okay.
that second floor.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, have you been to the fire department?
Yes, we have through our completeness review process.
Have they seen, I guess back to the landscape plan, I'm just looking at those trees along the western to help probably, those 4 trees. I'm just wondering how they'll fair in terms of fire safety. That'll be a comment. Okay, so that's questions. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? I have one speaker slip. And I have one hand raised online. So Tom Evans, when you're ready, 2 minutes. Exactly.
Could we have that, an overhead, overhead slide showing the surrounding area?
Not a vicinity map?
Yes.
If you go to sheet 1, middle of the page on the left side. And zoom in, maybe, please.
Okay, that's good enough for now. I just want to make the point that this property is adjacent to the Ortega Ranch and the portion of the Ortega Ranch that is retained native vegetation. This canyon goes way up. And so we're adjacent to quite a large natural area here. And that's one issue as far as being compatible with a rural setting. And the other issues, if you look at the architecture on the homes here, these are all very conservative architecture. And I think that there's nothing really showing, we don't see a good view of this house compared to the other ones and so on. And I really think that story poles should be erected so everybody can take a look at the surroundings and the adjacent residences. And I think it's even potentially valuable for the applicant because I think they may find that they will actually want to rotate the house a little more towards the ocean, or parts of it maybe, because we've seen a bunch of proposals for this before, quite a few. And you can actually walk around, there's a trail, that's not it, it's up above, it goes around the whole canyon, comes out above, right on the cul-de-sac there. And the context here is really important, and the contemporary is a conditional style, based on the surroundings. The glass rail is more than we have anywhere else in Summerland. We have some glass rails, but not to this extent. And I like what the middle floor has, where it has a partial wall. I think that, and maybe on the top it should have a cable or something like that. It's just too much glass, too much potential reflectivity. And that also goes for the glass face of the building. Those heights of those doors could be cut down and so on, and still have plenty of ocean view. This house is quite visible from people that live around here and from certain streets and so on. So it's not going to be missed. And we don't have anything that's just all those stories going up. It's just it's a unique situation. It's a tough site. And I think they've done a good job with it. But I like the house in general, but that one elevation that faces the ocean really needs to be softened, and the colors need to be worked on more.
Great. Okay.
And anyway, more neighborhood context, finished floors with adjacent and all that. We don't have a total picture here. We just have this house kind of stuck in there. And so anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, James McClintock online.
Yes, James McClintock. I'm a resident of Calle Culebra. I'm an architect. I used to be on the Summerlin Board of Architectural Review, and we did review this project, but I am speaking solely as a resident. I do not represent the board. Just generally, I support the project as presented. I do have some concerns about construction, parking, and so forth that may not be the purview of this review, but I would ask that they look closely at off-site parking for construction workers. There's a big demand for street parking up there already, and a construction project will exacerbate that. I was curious if there was any discussion or addressing the trail access. Is the trail access going to change? There's a Montecito Trails Association trail head at the end of the cul-de-sac. And I use those trails frequently. I think the way the house is sited, it will be very innocuous to the experience along the trail. Oh, one other thing was there's a rock mulch feature number 19 in the landscape plan that seems to come across part of the right of way. It's unclear to me why that would be happening or what that is. It could be nothing. And that's all I have to say.
Very good, thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Before we do, gentlemen, what item are you? 5? Okay, great. Comments from the board, Mr. Verdiak.
Well, I think that I worry about the glass railings and actually all that glass reflecting. I mean, it's facing south towards the ocean. And so you would get a reflection there. I think that would be detrimental. I know it doesn't, I'm sure it doesn't match any building or the character of the area. And I think you could address that with colors, changing the colors a lot. I mean, I think what I'm saying is it should be darker. Anyway, other than that, I think it's a good project and it's going to be expensive. Good luck for that.
Ms. Froscher.
What's the height of the doors or the glazing in the upper story? You know, the wall of glass on the south elevation. Nice.
Did you hear that?
Yep, I did, thanks. Well, yeah, it's 4 stories, 3 stories of glass. That's the top floor. The lower floors are low. The lower floors. Sure. Yeah, you see that. So I guess at this point, I would focus on the colors needing to be darker. That white, it's softened, but it still basically reads as white. So I think that they both need to step down. The glass railing on top of those walls of glass, I think it would be better as cable railing on that upper level. Because I know if you create the parapet wall coming up like you're doing on the mid-level, you're going to lose some of your downward view. So cable railing may be a better option. I don't know what anybody else thinks about story poles in this situation, but I think that might be recommended. So that's it.
Okay, Mr. Peugeot.
Go to number 12 and 13. Yeah, okay, so I think this, I understand, by the way, I think it's a very beautiful building. I think it's very nicely designed, have very nice elements, very well articulated. I think this picture is a little bit misleading. You have to be a bird flying on a certain level in order to see this kind of a picture. If you go to the next one, 13, yeah, I think that it's not, I mean, it might be technically a 4-story building, but you'll never get the 4 stories on one shot. Maybe you'll get 2 to 3 according to your angle, because it's going to be seen from below. So, you know, there's something to be said about that. I don't think anybody objects to it, this innovation. Maybe the color. I think the color as a thing. If you go back to the one before 12. Yeah, I'm going back to that one because it shows. Well, actually, there's one more. Let's see. Go to 14. 15. The next one there.
Are you looking for the garage?
No, the side.
Perspective is on the cover, on the cover,
the
on the
east-
cover
east-
sheet.
east-
East elevation.
The renderings on the cover sheet.
No, the east elevation, Okay,
That's noted on 12.
North is on 11, and then the
11,
garage
okay,
is
I'm
10.
sorry, I was counting
Yes.
so the garage is not on the north, it's on the, because it's down, okay, the house is down, all right. Yeah, there is some glass there, but I'm not sure how objectionable that is. Let's go back to 12, please. I hear the comments about the glass railing and so forth, but I don't know. There's something nice about this, the way this composition is done, and the tall windows without any lintels or apparent lintels. There is something good about that. I agree with the comment on the colors that they should be darker. I know the glass is going to make an impact, but I think it's worth it. I would support this project.
Mr. Bloomer?
I'll start with the glass railings. I think they're amazing. I don't have a problem with them. Overall, I think the house, it's a complicated site condition. As John said, not easy to build. So I think, you know, in terms of massing and the way it's approaching the site, I think it's a good example of how to build on the hillside and get everything to fit. And so from a massing standpoint, I think it's well executed. Architectural style, I think is acceptable for the neighborhood and seems to be well done with a couple minor fine tuning elements. I think we have a nice project here. Specific comments that I have about just bringing you back for some further refinement. I'm kind of objecting to the porcelain tile finish. I don't know if that's the right material for this environment, or just what I'm speaking to is more like regionally specific material palettes. I'd have you study that. I'd like to see a physical sample of that. I'd like to understand the board length that you're using. If it's meant to be a porcelain tile that emulates, say, like a board form concrete or a wood form, I'd like to see that and understand more about it. Definitely don't support anything with any level of sheen to it. So it's needs to be a very flat material in my mind. Specifically the waterfall roof element on the garage in the upper story. I have two comments on that. I'd like to see the fascia on that come around to match the fascia on the lower elements with the dark color. I think the white fascia is inappropriate and it's going to stain and weather poorly. And I don't understand why it's standing out from the rest of the more subtle, darker color on the lower elements, given that it's up there in elevation. So I'd like to see that change to match the fascias on the lower elements. The waterfalling element, I'd like to go to the elevation where we see the eastern elevation.
That is east.
Yeah, I guess it's north, right? The other
Put them
opposite of
to
that.
11.
So can I see the pointer? I would consider, I like the waterfall idea. I think it's kind of fun to play with in design. And so I really support what you're doing there. One thought would be about somewhere in alignment with just above the header of this door. I would clip it and then return with a darker material under it. I think it'll highlight what you're doing as an architectural move, but also help break up the height of this wall rather. And I think it should be done somewhere around here. Just stop that and then let it step back and then bring back your darker material or I guess it would be whatever is on the rest of this structure. But right now it's currently the tile. The last comment I have is just the general palette seems to be a very cool gray. I'd like to see you warm up the palette. I don't know if that's a function of the renderings, the way it's displayed on screen, but I see you have the black trim and windows and the other kind of steel elements in the project. And I really not a big fan of this light colored material. I think you could study the material of this waterfall to become, I guess I understand why, I guess it occurs to me now why you actually have this white, because you're trying to make this white. And this would be great if you're using a sheet metal product to cover the fascia, then bring the sheet metal product down on this waterfall element, and do a standing seam or do some kind of folded pattern, find a way to make that attractive. But I think that needs to come in line. And I think just generally warming up the palette a little bit. If this element here wasn't white and then these elements here are darker, maybe I could get behind your lighter green color that you're trying to do, but it just needs to warm up a bit. And then I've been kind of looking at this little box of this parapet. Are you guys, well, I don't have any questions. I'm just not, feels, well, it's fine. I'm not going to make any comment on that. The landscape, by the way, seems appropriate and well done as well. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Can we go down one sheet? I tend to agree with most of what was said. I think that this, unless I'm missing something, this doesn't really reflect what is on the plan. It seems like some of these walkways are right up against the structure, but I don't know, it's hard to read that, but because everything looks a lot tighter on the plan than it does in this rendering. So I think story poles, site visit are definitely going to be necessary for this project, and I am concerned also about 3 levels of glass and glass railings. It's just so much. It's going to be like potentially beacon on the hill. So, but I think a site visit would help to bring that in line so we can see where this is seen from. Take a look at the trees along the western property line to ensure fire safety. Otherwise, that's all I had to add. Any last minute comments?
One more comment. The glass technology has advanced a lot, especially in these high-rise, buildings, to cut down the reflection. So you could try and study that. Maybe that type of technology might be available for a small project like this.
Also, real quick, wasn't this gone, this pole here? This tall
There's
post?
one that remains closer to the street. There were 3 previous.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I can make a comment on that.
Yes, please.
Just in line with my previous comments, I think that should be clad or painted to match the fascia, the darker metal.
Okay. All right, so you're here for concept and preliminary, but I think we need to see the story poles first, right?
Could I ask the basis for the story pole requirement?
The basis for it?
I could answer that, Mr. Chair. Precedence. We've asked other applicants to do the same.
And yeah,
There's
given the location,
the location, the hillside, the amount of mass. I think there could be some general negotiation on the amount of story pole. I don't think we have given that Mr. Chairman, given we don't have any neighbors here complaining about the project and any immediate concerns to mitigate between neighbors or anybody else for that matter, I think it's just a general understanding of where we're at and making sure that we all think we're all seeing what we think we're seeing. But I would condition that by doing a very simple story pulling. If we're
So like
do it.
corners.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we've requested at the city. They have a reduced, where you do second story or, highest story. They're just quite expensive to install. If you have never installed them.
Yeah, we know.
You get that.
Okay.
Chair, just a quick comment on story poles. They are really expensive, especially on a hillside like this. We have extensive 3D modeling of the building that can show you a view from any perspective. The issue of story poles never came up in the first meeting that we had. And I just don't see what will be accomplished by
Actually, that's one
having
of the
story
comments here. Site visiting story polls may be required.
may be required. And again, I think this is a case where it's hard to understand why or what story polls would actually accomplish when we've had no comments or complaints from neighbors about the design or the massing of the building. We can show you a view of any
Got it.
from any
Okay.
perspective.
Someone,
Mr. Chair, can I respond? I think I have an answer to that.
Go ahead.
I tend to agree with you, Mr. Reichert, about there is no neighbor or any immediate concerns being addressed that we're having to mitigate with story polls. So I agree with you on that front. I think putting the story polls up though does create a visual understanding for the neighborhood to see the project, and it tends to draw people out who may have a concern with the project. Who don't have the ability to read plans and look at 3D work. So, you know, and just in terms of consistency, when we've had this much development on projects in this area, on this kind of site condition, we've been pretty consistent about that. I'm not a big fan of it either, to be frank, but I think the board's kind of married itself to kind of a consistency here too. That unfortunately, being caught up in that net. I understand your concern about it, but again, I would just say we need very few referential story points, and I would encourage you guys to negotiate with the chair here on exactly what we're asking for in terms of a story poll. Like one stick for each corner could probably satisfy this and reduce the amount of cost and liability of your project in terms of what it takes to do story polls. That's my answer and advice.
Val, do you want to add anything?
I think Josh explained it, that it is in part for the neighborhood to put a context, a physical context on it. And there's a lot of precedents of this occurring on hillside sites and oceanfront sites. And
It would be awesome to have a trigger identified in the bar informational packet regarding to story polls. Just processing question or comment rather for staff, not necessarily.
It'd be
for you
awesome if
guys.
we didn't need a bar.
I agree too. Just a processing clarification question, if I might, for the story polls and site visit that were to be included, that would occur prior to a next bar date, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So talk to your planner. Okay.
Saying, are we clear about the parking spaces? It seems like, why have 4 parking spaces required? I mean,
Oh, good
what is
question,
that?
Alex.
Yeah.
So the size of our lot dictates that we are required to provide 2 extra off-street parking spaces in addition to the 2 covered and required spaces. So we exceed the 10,000 square foot lot requirement, which triggers the 2 additional spaces.
It's
per
the size of the lot.
the
not-
size of the lot.
Okay, so, but I don't think the board has any problem with the plan. Maybe
So
that's-
the reality is that we can park 4 in the 4 total off-street, but you're not allowed to park them in the front yard setback. And so you can park one of the 2, but you can't park both of them per the code. But theoretically, there's going to be 2 cars in that driveway, potentially 3.
Do you need any comments from our board to the?
I think in the motion, it would be preferable if you could include that the board
Okay.
accepts the modification request.
So it is a modification.
It is a modification.
Okay. So there's no motions, but I think we can give positive comments to the parking.
In the minutes,
modification
that would be great.
request.
All right, so Mr. Chair, one quick, if I may.
Regarding,
Back to the story polls, and I just want to make sure we don't miss this opportunity, but now would be the time to negotiate with the chair on what kind of story polling we're asking for.
Yes, I would love a reduced story pole plan requirement to provide the corners of.
yeah, I think that's probably all any of us would.
Just want to make sure that gets in the record, Mr. Chair, properly.
It's kind of hard to see exactly because we don't have the 3D, so it's hard to pinpoint exactly
If
which
you go-
corners.
If we go to the side elevation, it will be easier. in the side, side. No,
Go to 13, I think, Jonathan.
There you go. See that? Yeah, I guess you would have something like this, right?
Mhm.
And then maybe this guy, but it's this could be. I don't think you need to spoil.
Yeah, I don't think you need any of the
that,
decks
huh?
or anything like that. I think it's
Yeah.
really just the main portion of the house. at
Can
the
you go to the other side?
obvious corners.
Jonathan, go to the other side.
So 11.
11.
Up, keep going up.
Yeah, you can see what that would be like. That, right? So, and then maybe this one, right?
Mr. Chair, can I make a recommendation?
No.
You will go
Please, please. Most of the plan. Go to the elevation you previously showed.
Number 13.
Okay, the one facing the ocean with that. One more. Okay. I think it'd be appropriate to just streamline this eave right here and this here. That's it. One string from that point, one string to that point, one string to this point and that point. I think that'll be enough. Just trying to reduce the amount of work here.
I'm fine with that. Okay,
Mr. Chair.
Item number 5. Joe, need a clarification?
Yes, I have two questions. For those of us viewing online, I wasn't able to see the string line that you're pointing to. So for the
Can you
minutes,
follow along there, Jonathan? So it's, yeah, right there to there, and then the garage there to there.
so this is the southern facing elevation.
Wet eastern facing elevation.
Okay, eastern
Looks
facing
like south, but
elevation.
it's really east.
For clarification, we're talking about 4-story poles with string line at the front elevation, front of that elevation and the back of it.
I mean, there's also,
That was my
what is the
intent.
board, how does the board feel about this one?
No,
Not necessary. Okay,
it's just
so yes.
Thank you.
All right,
And
item
then-
5.
Thank you.
Mr.
Rhonda.
Chair.
Sorry, you had one more, Joe.
Yeah, I did. Just one more. So Mr. Bloomer had a comment about the darker metal. I think it was on the garage. I said something about it being clad or painted to match the fascia throughout. I just wanted to clarify that comment.
So 2 comments. There was the ceramic tile that's proposed on the upper structure that I recommended that be a flat color, not to have any sheen. And then the fascia and the waterfall element, I'd like to see those match the fascia of the lower structures with the metal.
Okay, great. I've got those.
Okay, item 5, Ridgeway Trust, new single-family dwelling, requested Craig Burdick, agent for owners, Ridgeway Trust, for conceptual review of demolition of a 2,200 square foot single-family dwelling and construction of a new 2,700 square foot dwelling and 638 square foot attached garage, located at 1475 Anderson Lane in Eastern Goleta. This looks like first time seeing. So you can state your names for the record and give us as brief a presentation as possible.
I'm Craig Burdick, the architect with Studio 1030 Architects.
I'm Rich Ridgway, the property owner, along with my daughter.
Okay, welcome. Whenever you're ready, just tell Jonathan which page you want to be on.
You could start with the site plan, first one. That's fine too. So as described, there's an existing house there that's, first of all, the site is, if you go to the end of Patterson and where it turns, there's a road called Anderson that goes out to the bluffs, and it's an agricultural zone with nurseries and there's also single family dwellings there. And so right now there's a existing close to 2,300 square foot house that's in disrepair that we're planning on demoing that, and then an existing 3-car garage that we're going to keep. So we're proposing an ADU plus a primary residents, but for the review, it's just the primary resident. So keeping the existing house or the house that we're proposing is approximately 2,800 square feet with a 600 square foot or attached garage. And then keeping with kind of the land agriculture feel or design, we chose to do a kind of barn style structure, loft, open ceilings, cathedral ceilings, and loft second story. If you can go to maybe I think it's page 7.
Is that an existing garage to remain up there also?
Yeah. So that garage has been refurbished. So, but that's to remain. And so with the barn style design, it actually works well as far as breaking up the massing because we have a 2-story loft structure to the south that, you know, we can bring the plate height down to 5'6", and then where it steps up to the living area and loft structure on the inside. If when we go to the plans, I can show you that. You know, it gives a relatively small massing for a 2-story volume. And then the house it steps down to the north with a living and entrance area. And then as you go farther along, that's to the east is the bedrooms and smaller structure. The roofs are 6 and 12. I mean, a lot of barn structures are higher than that, but that kind of works well with getting the loft in and the second floor. And then I know you're not reviewing ADU, but again, it follows kind of that same barn style structure. If you go to the floor plan, which I think is sheet right there, that's the second floor. So so the garage is to the left, south side, and the second floor above that is above that. And then we have the kind of support area, and then the kitchen is in that higher volume. And the loft looks over the kitchen area. And then you have the entrance in the main room, where it steps down again with outdoor patio to the west that has a trellis. And same with we have a covered porch as an entrance element there that you can see on the elevations. And then the 2 bedrooms on the side with the bathrooms. If you go to the next floor is the second. That's the ADU plan. Yeah, go to the next.
Yeah, we're not so much concerned with floor plan as exterior.
Yeah, so we could go back to the elevations. I do have sections through there too. So.
Right there below. It's ADU, right?
Yeah, that's ADU. So it's one up. Yeah, so you can see the top left elevation is the north elevation. That's the bedroom wing. The one adjacent to that's on the other side, and that's the garage floor with a second story loft. Those windows are a little high because the neighbor preferred us not looking down on them. So per their request, we have high windows facing that way. And then you can see the middle elevations is the back facing west that has the outdoor patio. And then same thing with the same program elements. And then the bottom one is the front elevation with the entrance patio. And you can see how the massing steps down as you go to the south or north. And I think that pretty much covers it. And we are building the new house almost exactly where the house that is being demolished. It's on a half-acre site, so there's a lot of room between the neighbors and other structures.
Great, thanks. Do you have a landscape plan at all? Are you changing the site layout?
We do, Martha from Arcadia is going to present that. I think she's on Zoom.
Yep. And so we've got still a whole couple minutes left even. Martha? Can you hear us? So you're unmuted, it seems like. Martha?
Landscape plans.
Yeah, the hand is raised and you appear to be unmuted. But we cannot hear you. Okay, well, sorry, Martha, we're unable to hear you. So maybe you can give us a general idea of what's happening with the landscape.
Yeah, it's kind of a very much feel that, like Callie was saying, that there's a lot of palm nurseries. And so we have a lot of different type of palms in the front. There's a existing redwood in the back that we're keeping. It's kind of a primary feature of the backyard.
I guess I'm thinking more in terms of hardscape. Is the driveway where it was? Are the walkways?
So the driveway where it was, we're proposing just keeping that. That was a gravel driveway and it's going up to the ADU and we're just going to keep that.
And what's
the drive?
That's parking for ADU.
Yeah.
New walkway to the front.
So then the parking to the attached garage, the primary residence is going to be concrete.
Yeah, okay.
And then the existing kind of stays.
Okay,
That
pretty
was
straightforward.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, sorry, Martha. Can't hear you. But I think we got it. So questions from the board?
Oh, quick question, the materials, you're using board and bat and then siding, right? And where?
Yeah. You know, actually, our material board didn't get uploaded. I have some, if you want to look at it, but it's the siding's still hardy board, but we changed just to help with the massing and break it up. We have the bedroom wing in that horizontal siding, the rest of it's board and back.
Yeah, I was wondering where do you make the change? What's
So that bedroom wing,
if
you go to the elevations.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it's
a pointer.
Oh.
That may or may not work. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
So it's just
that guy
part of the, this is the bedrooms to the, they come out on both sides.
Okay. So
And then the
horizontal
rest-
siding.
And then, yeah, that's the only
Okay.
part that's horizontal, the rest is forward and back.
All right.
Other
Yes.
questions?
And you got a trim around the windows or 1 by 2?
They're,
Or what?
they're 1 by 2.
1 by 2. Okay. All right.
The roof?
Standing seam metal, matte black. And
Matte
the
black,
rest,
okay.
we're using a heron plum, it's kind of a white beige color.
Okay, other questions?
Well, yeah, I have a question. You know, the upper right-hand corner is the elevation that faces the street. Is that correct?
No.
That faces south, that faces actually a neighbor. No, the bottom. The bottom.
So,
If you pull up that elevation.
so,
Yeah, so the one to the, yeah,
so this bottom left elevation faces the street.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, public comment. Is there anyone? There's nobody in the room. Does anyone like to speak on this? Please raise your hand. Okay, comments from the board here for concept review.
I think it's a good concept, well done, well, easy to understand, and makes sense. I think it's ready to go.
I agree.
So do I. It's interesting. It's a fun project.
Anything to add, Mr. Bloomer? Okay, I don't either, although it's kind of side loaded. But you know, not to the detriment of the architecture and the massing. So looks good to me. So I think return, looks like they're pretty well on their way. Return for prelim and final full board. Sure. When you're ready. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna break for lunch and return at 1:15. I'm starting with. items for
Did all that and they couldn't hear me.
Oh, hi, Martha.
Oh, hello. I re-up, so I do apologize. So if you want me to pop
No,
through the
no.
landscape plan.
We're good.
it's-
It looks
quite simple.
pretty well complete. Yeah, we just gave them the opportunity to come back prelim final on for full board.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Sorry about the glitch. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Yeah, item 6 at 1:15.